My sister-in-law licked my face and now my brother is not talking to me. I am 22M and my brother is 28M. He's been engaged to his fiancée for a few months now. She is 24. My brother's fiancée is your typical spoiled party girl, and TBH, so is my brother. In the last year or so, my brother and I have had a strained relationship. This is mostly due to differences of opinion when helping take care of our mom, who is struggling with some PTSD/anxiety. She got held hostage by a man at her job, is still recovering and not back to work yet. For some context, my brother is a very impatient and opinionated person who struggles to see things outside his own perspective. He doesn't have a good grasp on mental health. He is easily persuaded by what he reads online, gets caught up in conspiracy theories. And I noticed COVID/the pandemic kind of exacerbated all of this. I work as a paramedic and he's been arguing with me about thinking I know better than him ever since. I am adopted and my bio mom was of a different ethnicity, so we don't look like brothers. When he can't think of a way to win an argument, he brings up the fact that I'm not her real son or his real brother. It wasn't always like this between us, which is sad. He's just not the same person, and I'm not sure if it's work stress/life stress or what. I get that this post is going to be skewed by my perspective, but I'll try to be objective when it comes to the conflict. My birthday was last weekend when this happened. My brother's fiancée apparently had the idea to throw me a surprise party. Most of the people there were friends of my brother and the fiancée. Everyone was drunk. They made a bit of a show of bringing me out a cake and having me blowing out the candles. Before I did that, my brother's fiancée swiped frosting on her finger and put it on my cheek. I thought it was just her being nice and not trying to smash a piece of cake in my face. I blew out the candles, and after I did that, his fiancée grabbed my face and licked it, from my jaw all the way up the side of my face. I have no idea why she did this. We don't even have the kind of relationship where it would be funny. My brother's face changed, his demeanor changed, he became very withdrawn and irritable. They were seen quietly fighting, and he ended up just leaving the party. I brought it up the next day to make sure he was okay, and apparently the two of them made up. It's me he has an issue with. I don't know what she told him, but it seems as if I'm the one being made out to be flirting with her, wanting her, etc. Not even remotely true. I told him to leave me out of his relationship problems. It's his partner who disrespected him and embarrassed him. He's angry at the wrong person. I refuse to apologize. Apparently I am going to be out of the wedding unless I do. He's upset because I won't admit to my mistake. Well, I don't feel like I made one. Should I just do it for the sake of settling it? Normally I'm willing to be the bigger person, but this is a false accusation I don't want attached to myself. Ada, relevant comments. Has SIL been flirting or trying to make a move on OP in the past? OP, I never thought about it actually, and nothing really sticks out. She's obsessed with K-pop and I am half Korean, so she's made comments to me, but I didn't interpret them as flirting. I thought she was just trying to be nice and didn't know how else to connect when I shared about the whole being adopted thing. When she's sober, she is more awkward/shy. My brother lives with my mom, so usually when I visit and we're talking. My mom and brother are around too, and it's more of a family vibe. Commenter 1. Your brother and his fiancée are behaving like children. If you apologize for this incident, then it's likely that he will continue to treat you with disrespect. If he takes you out of the wedding, he will have to explain the reason to others, which should prove embarrassing to him and his fiancée. Perhaps you should call him on his bluff. Regardless, NTA. OP, you know what? I'm not opposed to threatening him with that. Thank you. OP should not attend his brother's wedding for peace of mind because of the brother and his fiancée's behaviors. OP, this one hurts. I think I needed to hear it though. You're not wrong. I guess I'm just always trying to understand him, and I need to stop doing that. Especially when he's not giving me that same kind of understanding. I thought we could get back to the relationship we had before, but it's not looking like it's getting any better. Was SIL likely to be drunk when the situation took place? OP, she was drunk. My brother was drunk. I was drunk. Everyone was drunk. And there's video of it which shows it was all her. I agree there isn't anything to dissect. I don't understand why he's so mad at me. Update is regarding this post. After trying to reach out to my brother, he finally came around and stopped ignoring me. He didn't want to talk about what happened, but was willing to put it behind us. TBH, I think talking about it would have been healthier, but I decided to let it go because he was so adamant. Then just the other day, he came to me on his own and admit that he feels unsure about his relationship and is struggling to trust his fiancée ever since the incident on my birthday. I told him there's no rush to get married, and he should take time to figure out what he's feeling. I didn't try to give any particular opinion because I feel like this is something he needs to figure out for himself. Also, I genuinely don't know what's going on between them. He still took what I said the wrong way somehow, and we ended up having an argument. He thinks I'm not happy for him and don't want to see him successful / starting a family. I tried to walk away at this point in the conversation because no matter what I said, it was just going to get misconstrued, but he didn't want to stop fighting. Somewhere in that, I finally learned why he's so mad at me these days. It turns out he's pissed that our mom paid for my tuition. I've been doing OT to pay her back. Clarification. If it matters, she doesn't actually want me to pay her back. It was a gift, but I'd like to pay her back slowly. My brother feels this money should have been given to him for his wedding, which I am no longer invited to. I don't really know how to fix things, but that's where we're at. Relevant comments. Did OP's mother pay for his brother's tuition? OP. She did, but he dropped out, so one point in his argument is that she gave him less. Commenter 1. NTA. She assaulted you. Your brother should be mad at her, not you. Probably best just to go and see, at least for a while. Commenter 2. NTA. Your brother is a jealous and his girlfriend is a creep. I doubt their relationship will last until the wedding, but if it does, I bet the wedding will be a drunken mess. You sound like a good person. Take care of yourself and your mom and leave your brother to deal with his problems. Hopefully one day he will grow up and want a better relationship with both of you. Commenter 3. NTA, and it's not you that has to fix things. It's him. Short of giving into his tantrum and giving him money, don't do that, by the way. You can't fix this. And if you start bending over backwards to make the man baby happy now, he'll know you will eventually cave and he will never change. The money was your mom's to give / loan however way she wanted. If he has an issue with that, he needs to work it out with your mom because it was ultimately her decision. Him shitting all over you is wrong. Update 2. Well, the situation escalated in ways I couldn't have predicted. A couple of days ago, I was on a late shift when I got a call from my mom. She sounded shaken and just muttered, "It's your brother." I left work as soon as I could, adrenaline pumping, half expecting the worst. When I got to her house, I found her and my brother in the middle of a screaming match so intense the neighbors had already started hovering outside like they were watching some sort of reality TV show unfold in real time. Apparently, my brother had shown up unannounced to confront her about my tuition and his wedding fund grievances. This time, though, it wasn't just whining. He was holding a printed spreadsheet of her finances. How he got that? I don't know, but it wasn't looking good for him. Mom was standing her ground, cheeks flushed, telling him that her choices were none of his business, and she didn't owe him an explanation for how she spent her money. I stepped in, trying to de-escalate, but the look on his face made my stomach sink. "I bet you love this," he spat at me, eyes wild. Always the favorite, always the one who deserves everything. That word favorite hung between us like a thick cloud. Before I could answer, he stormed past me, knocking a framed photo of the three of us from a shelf. The glass shattered on the floor, and that's when my mom just lost it. It was like seeing her break all over again. Then, the kicker. His fiancée came up behind him, out of breath and still in her neon workout gear, looking more annoyed than concerned. "Can we please not do this in public?" she hissed, giving me a side-eye that told me she was still holding some grudge over the birthday incident. The room fell silent as she grabbed his arm, whispering something I couldn't hear but looked like it was meant to put him back in line. The silence stretched painfully until he shrugged her off and said, "Screw it, I'm done." With that, he left, fiancé in tow, without another word. Mom broke down in tears as soon as the door shut. I cleaned up the shattered glass while she sat there, eyes fixed on nothing, muttering how she failed somewhere along the line. I wanted to tell her that she didn't, that maybe this was all on him or on whatever mess his relationship had become, but the words stuck in my throat. The only sound was the crunch of broken glass underfoot and the distant hum of a car engine disappearing down the street. That's where we're at now. I don't know if I'll hear from him or what the next move is. All I know is I'm exhausted from the constant drama and tired of being made the villain in someone else's narrative. I guess the real question now is, what's left of this family to save? The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of notifications. My brother's fiancée had posted a long, passive-aggressive rant on social media. She didn't mention me or our mom directly, but anyone who knew what had been going on could read between the lines. The post was all about how exhausting it is when people can't just be happy for you, and family not understanding boundaries. It had the tone of someone trying desperately to control the narrative, complete with a photo of her and my brother looking perfectly happy at a bar, clinking glasses like nothing had happened. The comments section was an echo chamber of people hyping her up, saying things like, "You don't need that negativity, queen," and "focus on your happiness." It felt surreal seeing strangers get involved in something they had no clue about, fueled by a carefully curated version of reality. I debated whether to respond, maybe even post my side of the story, but I knew that would only pour gasoline on the fire. So, I just let it go and turned my phone off. I figured it'd be best to spend the day with Mom and try to get her mind off everything. We decided to visit a local market, the kind that sells homemade crafts and comfort food that tastes like childhood. For a couple of hours, it almost felt normal almost. But, of course, peace didn't last. While browsing a stall selling handmade pottery, I heard someone call my name. I turned to see one of my brother's close friends, someone I hadn't seen since the birthday fiasco. He was holding a cup of steaming cider and had this awkward half-smile, like he knew he was stepping into something uncomfortable. "Hey, man," he started, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "I heard about everything going down. Just wanted to say, I don't think anyone really believes what she's saying." That threw me off. "What do you mean?" I asked, not sure I even wanted to hear the answer. He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "It's been going around that you're trying to mess with their relationship. She's got this whole narrative that you've been jealous since day one. It's pretty wild, honestly. But, between you and me, nobody's buying it. Most of us think she's the problem, not you." The relief I felt was temporary, quickly replaced by the familiar weight of frustration. It didn't matter if people believed me or not. My own brother was choosing to trust her over me. We chatted for a minute before he said he had to go. He offered me a small, sympathetic nod and disappeared into the crowd. I told Mom about the encounter on our way home. She stayed quiet, her fingers drumming on the steering wheel. Finally, she sighed and said, "You know, I used to think he'd grow out of this. That someday, he'd learn to see people as they are, not as he wants them to be." The truth was, I wasn't sure he ever would. Back at the house, we sat on the couch, scrolling through old photos. There was one that caught my eye us as kids, building a fort in the living room out of couch cushions and bedsheets. My brother's grin was so wide it looked like it hurt. That version of him seemed so far away, like it belonged to another lifetime. Before I knew it, the doorbell rang, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Mom exchanged a worried glance with me as I got up to open it. There he was, looking disheveled and strung out, eyes rimmed with red. For a split second, I thought he was going to apologize, that this would be the turning point. Instead, he looked past me to Mom and muttered, "We need to talk." The tension in the room thickened as my brother stepped inside, his jaw set and eyes darting between me and Mom. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, which, knowing him, might have been true. His fiancée was nowhere to be seen, and that was the first small comfort I'd felt all day. "Look, I didn't come here to fight," he said, which, given our track record, meant we'd probably end up doing just that. He rubbed a hand across the back of his neck, a gesture he always did when he was on edge. "Then why are you here?" I asked, my voice tighter than I intended. He exhaled sharply and shifted his weight. "I need to know what's really going on. I need to hear it from you." Mom sat down slowly, like she needed to brace herself for whatever was coming. I followed suit, crossing my arms as if that would shield me from the incoming fallout. "What do you think is going on?" I shot back, keeping my tone neutral. "I don't know, man." His voice cracked, and for the first time, he actually sounded lost. "She's saying you're trying to make me look stupid, that you've been undermining us since the engagement." He glanced at Mom. "And that you're making her feel unwelcome in the family." "Unwelcome?" Mom said, her eyebrows shooting up. "After what happened at his birthday party, how can she even dash?" I held up a hand to stop her. "Mom, let me handle this." I turned to my brother, forcing myself to stay calm. "Do you really believe that? That I'd spend my time plotting against your relationship? You know me better than that." He looked away, staring at a spot on the floor like it held answers. "I don't know, man. I don't know anything anymore." We sat in silence, the kind that seems to last forever. Then, his shoulders slumped, and he sank into the chair across from us. The fight had drained out of him, and for once, he looked like he wasn't here to pick a side or sling accusations. He looked tired of being in the middle of something he couldn't control. "She's complicated," he admitted. "I thought I could handle it, but after what happened with you, I started seeing things differently. And then there's this voice in my head telling me I'm making a huge mistake, that maybe you're right, and I'm too deep in to get out now." I exchanged a glance with Mom, who looked both relieved and sad. We'd never wanted to see him reach this point, but maybe this was the moment of clarity he needed. "Listen," I said carefully, "you don't need to marry someone just because you're in too deep. If there's doubt, it's better to face it now than later." He nodded, eyes misty but focused. "I know," he whispered. I don't know how to face it without everything falling apart." Mom leaned forward, resting a hand on his knee. "Sometimes things have to fall apart, so they can be rebuilt better, honey. He didn't respond, but the way his face softened told me that her words had hit home. We sat there in the quiet, the weight of everything unsaid settling between us like dust. For once, there were no accusations, no yelling, just the shared understanding that we were all trying to find a way through this tangled mess. Then, a loud knock on the door shattered the moment. My brother's head snapped up, eyes widening as if he'd just been caught red-handed. The knock came again, insistent and angry. The knock echoed through the room like a gunshot, making all three of us jump. My brother's eyes darted to the door, and in an instant, I knew exactly who it was. Before any of us could react, the door flew open, slamming against the wall with a loud crack. There she was, his fiancée, hair disheveled and eyes blazing with a fury I hadn't seen before. "What the hell is this?" she shouted, waving her phone like a weapon. I caught a glimpse of her social media page, her ranting post now buried under dozens of comments that clearly hadn't gone her way. It looked like people had started calling her out, and I had a feeling that mutual friends might have been spilling the truth about the birthday party. My brother stood up so fast his chair tipped over. "You can't just barge in here," he snapped, but his voice wavered, not as firm as he probably wanted it to be. She ignored him, her eyes laser-focused on me. "So you've been playing the victim, huh? Telling everyone I'm the crazy one?" Her voice cracked as she threw the phone onto the couch, its screen lighting up with notifications that kept pouring in. I stayed silent, my pulse pounding in my ears. This was her unraveling, and I wasn't about to give her any more ammunition. "You know what's funny?" she spat, eyes now darting between my brother and me. "I'm done pretending I'm the bad guy here." She turned to my brother, who stood rigid, torn between anger and exhaustion. "You think this is my fault? You think I'm the reason everything's falling apart? Well, here's the truth. She jabbed a finger at me. Isn't the problem. You are." The room fell so silent that the tick of the old clock on the wall sounded like a drumbeat. My brother's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" he whispered, his voice small. She laughed, a sound more bitter than amused. "I've been pushing this wedding forward because I thought if we just got married, everything would click into place, that all the cracks would seal up, and you'd finally be the guy I thought I was marrying. But I've been lying to myself, and you've been letting me." A new wave of shock washed over me as I watched this play out. This wasn't just a meltdown, it was a confession. "I'm tired," she said, her voice breaking as she glanced at my brother one last time. "And I'm not going to drag myself or you through a wedding just because we're scared of admitting we were wrong." She looked at me, eyes now softer, almost apologetic. "I'm sorry for what I did. I was stupid and drunk, but that doesn't excuse it. You didn't deserve the fallout." And then, just like that, she was gone, leaving the door half open behind her. The silence returned, heavy and suffocating. My brother fell back into the chair, head in his hands. I didn't know if he was crying or just trying to process what had just happened. Mom moved to sit next to him, placing a hand on his shoulder, but he didn't react. Finally, he looked up, eyes bloodshot and raw. "I think I've been wrong about a lot of things," he muttered, voice hollow. "I don't know how to make it right." There it was, the moment of reckoning. It wasn't clean or triumphant, but it felt real, like something had finally cracked open inside him. I took a deep breath and stepped closer. "You start by owning up to it and taking it one day at a time. That's all any of us can do." He nodded, not looking at me but acknowledging the words. And in that moment, I realized that maybe this wasn't the end of everything, but the beginning of something raw and uncertain. Maybe we'd never go back to the way things were, but we had a chance to rebuild, even if the pieces looked different. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like there was hope. The kind that comes after a storm when everything is broken but finally clear.